You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. After LSU gets the commitment from Tre'Mond Shorts, a short time later, they learn they got a commitment from Mekhi Wingo. Mekhi Wingo, defensive lineman from University of Missouri, pledged to LSU. He had a whirlwind weekend. Mekhi Wingo was at LSU Wednesday to Friday, left LSU, went to Norman, visited Oklahoma Friday, Saturday, and then flew out to the West Coast to visit Southern Cal Saturday, Sunday. Went home and ultimately decided that LSU was going to be the place for him. So Mekhi Wingo spent 1 year at Missouri. He was a 3-star out of St. Louis. He played a ton of football as a true freshman for Mizzou. If there's one thing that I'll tell you that has me a little concerned, it's his size. He's 6'1", 280. He doesn't have prototype interior defensive line size in the SEC, but this is a guy who played on the interior of the line in the SEC this year as a freshman for Missouri. He even had he made an impact. He had 27 tackles, had a sack, made 3 starts as a freshman there at Mizzou, even had an interception. His interception was a pick six off of a deflected pass. It was actually pretty wild. And he said that when he was in high school, he did play early in his high school career some running back, but obviously as he got bigger, he played on the interior of the defensive line. So we've seen Mekhi Wingo really develop here throughout his high school career and then into his time there at Missouri. And this gives LSU a very solid interior rotation on the defensive line. And we're still waiting on word as of right now from Ali Gay on what he's going to do, but there's a lot of scuttle that he's likely going to return. But just look at the interior of the line. If Mason Smith stays at defensive tackle, he could kick out and play him, but let's say he stays at tackle. You've got Mason Smith and Jaquelin Roy. You got presumably Joe Evans returning as well. Jacoby and Guillory emerged and played a good bit for you this year. Now you add Mekhi Wingo, and Bryce Langston redshirted this past season. Then you just added Quincy Wiggins and Ty G. Hill. Now, we don't know where Quincy Wiggins is going to play, inside or out, and Ty G. Hill is an interior player. So, and then at ends, we know what you've got there with Ali Gay, presuming he returns. B.J. Ojolari, Sony Fanua is very likely to return also. Then you got guys like Xavier Carter. So you've got guys there at defensive end as well. But what's happened is now you've built a rotation. I'm not telling you Mekhi Wingo's coming in and is going to be a day one starter for LSU. But when LSU or any team in the SEC has been their most successful on the interior of the line, it's when they built a rotation. I remember the year that always stands out the most to me was 2014. 2014 was the biggest challenge for LSU because your most experienced defensive lineman was sophomore Christian Lockature. Because if you remember that year, you had Ego Ferguson and Anthony Johnson that left early when that really would have been their turn to be the front line of the defense. And instead, guys that would have been really good parts of the rotation became the dudes that were giving you 70, 80 snaps a game, 60, 70 snaps a game. And that's a problem. Now you've built up to where you can have a rotation. Now, remember that year when Lockature was the most experienced defensive lineman, and then the other starter next to him was, I'm blanking, from Plaquemine, who ended up going to the Miami Dolphins. You remember? Who am I talking about? I'm blanking right now. Someone posted. Y'all remind me. Someone will tell me. I remember. But anyway, you got a true freshman who's coming off a knee injury. Why am I blanking? I can see the guy's face. Got drafted by the Dolphins. Help me. Somebody help me. Anyway, so you had a young interior defensive line is basically what you had. And you didn't have a rotation. That was the year where they got blown out by Mississippi State. It was really probably Les's worst team, if you remember. So this builds up a rotation for LSU on the interior. It even gives you the option, if you want to, where you can kick Mason Smith to defensive end, which they toyed with this year also. They toyed with the idea and did play him at times at end. So if you want to kick Mason Smith out to end, you can do that because now you have another body on the interior. So it's just a big get to have another guy, 2 more big bodies, one on each side of the ball with major college experience. Wingo's a younger player but started in the SEC. Tre'Mond Shorts, who was a JUCO All-American. Davin Gottschall, by the way. So I don't know why that one just went into like the deep recesses of my brain. Sometimes it works that way. But I love this. I love what Brian Kelly's doing. I'm not going to tell you today that all of these transfers, the 11 transfers that LSU's gotten, is going to make them a contender. Because realistically, when you look at a lineman from East Tennessee State, a receiver from ULL, a freshman defensive lineman from Missouri, a long snapper from East Carolina, these are all guys who are giving you experience and depth at positions where you need it, where you'd rather have that guy than a true freshman stepping in. But it also doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a transfer from, like, Elias Ricks coming in from LSU, who's an All-American, going to Bama, who's going to be a day one starter, All-American, and first-round draft pick. That's not what you're supplementing with. But you are supplementing your numbers such that your transitional year from Ed Ogeron to Brian Kelly should be an improvement from last year, undeniably. You're going to have more stability. You're going to be better coached. You're going to have better numbers, just more players than they had this past year. And all that shows that Brian Kelly's coming in with a win now mentality. It's not about taking your lumps year one and building for the future. It's about trying to win right now. To what degree they can, all that very much remains to be seen. But it started with building the roster, and they're certainly doing it. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.